Thanks for joining us on the Adrenaline Rush. I'm your host, Donald Kinney of Dragon Warrior Kung Fu and Velcro.
And I'm your co-host, Wildman Robbie Page. We want you to sit back, relax, and get ready to listen to a couple of things we want to talk about, because you're in store for what we like to call the Adrenaline Rush.
All right, we're back with the Adrenaline Rush. This is Donald Kinney, and here with me, as always, the wild man, Robbie Page. Merry Christmas, Robbie.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, too. Actually, we're back here after Christmas. We've been kind of off and doing our thing, so we're just going to jump right into it. And, Donald, what have you been up to? How was your Christmas? What do you got going? What do you got going on this week coming up?
I've mostly done family stuff this past week. We closed down the classes and everything for the week of Christmas. My wife had to work a couple days right before Christmas, so that's always lame, but we still got Christmas Day and the day after, so it was great. We did family stuff the whole time. This week we'll be getting back into it. We'll be doing a class just on Monday and Thursday to observe New Year's Eve and New Year's. Got some work coming up on the album, kids album for Velcro. Maybe finishing up some Christmas stuff if anybody's still in the mood to do that.
We talked last time, you was about to go to Bob Rock's, and how did all that turn out?
The Bob Rock's interview, it was good. It was a good time. As we talked about last time, the sound quality is all over the place with the microphones on the recording, so that's always kind of a disappointment, doing a radio thing and you don't sound as good.
Did you get some feedback? You picked up a gig or something in Winchester.
Let's see, 147 mentioned us doing a gig in April, but it might end up being the month before or after or whatever. We'll have to see what they've got open, because they've got a lot of stuff booked already. We're doing a gig at Granny's in Winchester. That's going to be January 24th.
What time?
I believe 8 or 9.
And there's no cover, nothing like that, just show up?
I don't think there's any cover this time. Last time we played there, I think it was like a $10 or $15 cover. I don't think there's any cover this time. I know we tried to negotiate that, but we got paid a little bit more of a guarantee instead of charging off on the cut. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get a bunch of people to show up regardless.
Yeah, we usually do well there because we got family in the area, and my wife works down that way sometimes, so she's got like coworkers and stuff that come check us out. It's a good time because it's a small place. It's a small bar, so there's not really room for a lot of people there anyway.
Yeah, you're not packing in hundreds of people and turning in a mosh pit or what.
Yeah. No, if you get 50 or 100 people, you're doing pretty good.
Myself, I actually had to work every day except for Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, and then I went back and did basically a double, and now I'm off until Sunday morning, so that's good. Try to catch up on a little bit of sleep tonight and in the morning, and got a few plans with the family tomorrow, and then we got a scrimmage game Sunday night, so if you ain't doing anything, come out, check out the team, because Dragon Warrior Kung Fu is a sponsor for the team this season. Hopefully Donald could come out to a couple games. Other than that, just doing the thing around the house, cleaning up after the holiday mess. You got presents and stuff to put away and clothes to wash and food to eat that gets left over from Christmas dinner. And
it's like endless housework when you do a big holiday hosting or
a
whatever.
One-day thing turns into a week ordeal. It's the prep before and the cleanup after. And my wife, she's the type of person where it has to be done right now. So as soon as people are done eating, she's already washing dishes and cleaning up, and she's constantly, I'm like, babe, take a break. Oh, I want to get it done. So I just let her go. no stopping her. But we should get back in the groove after New Year's. Hopefully my hours won't run over and get a little bit of extra time during the day. I won't be working so much, but to tell when that happens, because right now it's a pretty busy season, so depending on how the orders are at work, the volume of sales that we have depends on how big the trailers are and how much stock I have in the back room. And trust me, it's a everyday thing. I could take all week to catch up and be caught up and be ahead, and then in one day it's all back to shits again.
Such is the life of retail.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and just take a break for one of our sponsors.
MountaineerBrand.com. I'm Donald Kinney, and before I make the long and arduous journey from my bedroom to my studio music room, I like to take a shower and wash my beard with Mountaineer Brand Beard Wash. Today I used citrus orange. MountaineerBrand.com. Wildman15, the promo code that'll save you 15% off your order, even on top of other sales and deals. MountaineerBrand.com. And we're back with Adrenaline Rush, Wildman Robbie Page, and I'm your host, Donald Kinney. And up next, we're going to talk about some of the feedback that we've received for the show thus far.
That's right. We sent out some feelers to a bunch of people, just say, hey, listen to this. When we just first recorded the first 3 episodes, and we just wanted to get everybody's feedback, good, bad, ugly, favorite parts, not so favorite parts, suggestions, opinions. We take it all and we write it all down and process it, and we try to, from all that and what we want to do with the show, and take it, edit it, and kind of format it and try to get it the way we want it. It's a work in progress. And
oh yeah, we take all the advice seriously. We take it into effect. If somebody says, hey, you should be doing a segment on this, think about it. Yeah, we could probably do a segment on that. Yeah.
And people will say, watch stuff you say, like, whatever, it's a habit.
Yeah.
Things we say, we don't realize we say it as much until you listen to it back and other people tell you. So we are going to try to limit the amount of repetitive words that we say. It's just going to be a process, and you have to deal with it as we try to fix those habits that we have, because this is something new. We haven't really tested the waters on this, and we're still new at the game, and we're 5 episodes in, and some of the good feedback we got was about the mic quality. Everybody says it's really crisp. They can hear what we're saying really well.
Yeah, so I dropped an episode with a scratchy mic on them, just to keep them on their toes.
And today the microphone's picking up everything, just like tapping on the table and crinkling other paper and everything.
Yeah, we were just talking right into instrument microphones before, so it had like a raw, almost live sound. So I upgraded to a little studio room condenser, and so now we're getting more of the full room sound instead of the individual channels of us.
And he also said it was easier to edit that way, so see how that works out with this episode. Some other feedback we got was one of the first 2 episodes I was describing some of the wrestling that I was watching garbage, and instead of saying stupid I said retarded, and when I said that I wasn't saying that in a derogatory way and being discriminatory towards handicapped people or anything like that. I was trying to describe that the wrestling was just stupid, and so I don't want anybody to take that out of context, because my wife works with handicapped people. She's worked with them for over 10 years. We have handicapped students in our karate class. We take that kind of stuff serious, and I apologize to anybody if they were offended or took it the wrong way, and going forward I will make sure I have a different description for things that I say. I'm a country boy, so I got
yeah, I mean, we're doing a little bit of a harsh language in this show. We're not really directing it at kids. At the same time, we're going to try to be sensitive. We're not necessarily out to be offensive to anybody. We're just a couple guys talking about wrestling and martial arts.
Yeah, and everyday life and things that go along with it. And people were saying, don't want to come across being a negative Nancy and stuff. So we kind of changed up the format. We're definitely going to keep the chopping block. Everybody seems to like that, and that's a way for me to get out some of this build-up that I've had bottled in for a really long time, because I've had to watch what I say and all that because of the stupid-ass politics in the wrestling business.
Well, and that part's a service to the community. You've been in the business long enough that you know how things are supposed to be done professionally. You had the formal training, and you know exactly how to do it.
And a lot of things have rubbed me the wrong way, and people have done me wrong and burned me and lied to me, stabbed me in the back, said shit about me, all that stuff. And I've kept my mouth shut for a really long time. I haven't said a whole lot about how I feel about a lot of things that's happened in my experiences, and that's part of what this podcast is about. But I don't want to be totally negative about everything. So this episode, after the chopping block, from now on, we're going to do something we like to call Pedestal, which we're going to talk about an actual good independent wrestler that people need to start following and checking out. From here forward, you know, like we said, we're going to take feedback and we're going to kind of mold it into our format. We're going to try to stay at an hour basis if we can, maybe a few minutes over, you know, if we can do that. We're definitely switch it up podcast to podcast, or a couple podcasts here and there, and add a few things, take something out and change it up, so we're not always the same thing over and over again like podcasts that you listen to on a daily basis. And I guess we'll segue into some of the TV wrestling now for the holiday week and all that stuff. I have not been watching a lot of TV because I've been either work or sleep. And if I ain't doing one of those two things, I've been doing family stuff, so I haven't really had a lot of time to watch any TV. But you've said you had a few things to talk about?
I watched the AEW Dark that came out Christmas Eve, and it was not bad. The main event was, you know, Santa Claus versus Sean Spears. Joey Janela is Santa Claus, and then he had a buddy planted in the audience that was dressed up as Jesus. He knocked Sean Spears into the audience and he was doing flips onto him out into the audience, and then he stops and he sees Jesus in the audience, and then Jesus and Santa Claus have their little moment, and
well, see, that right there already tells me I'm glad I didn't watch it, because I heard that also that owner of the company ended up giving stunners out to people, and that's the stuff that is killing the business, man. This is what killing it. It's killing it.
I really liked that AEW was off for the week of Christmas. Like the episode that they ran New Year's Eve, they filmed the week before, the anticipation of not putting it out till
given their,
and they actually gave their people the holiday off. You know what I mean? Where you know damn well if Raw landed on Christmas, it would be the Raw Christmas Spectacular.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's going home this year.
Nobody. But yeah, after the new year, we'll get more into the TV wrestling. We'll have a little bit more time to actually sit down and try to watch a little bit of it, of what we can. We'll give a little bit of reviews here and there. It's not something that we're going to do all the time. We're going to focus on other things and more focus on independent wrestling. Not just the independent wrestling locally, just places that I've traveled and wrestled. We'll talk about those places too, but mainly locally and the surrounding areas. People that know me and have come to see me wrestle, those are the places that I know the best and that I'm going to talk about, because I don't want to talk about something that I don't know. I'm going to talk about the people I know, the places I've been, and that kind of thing. So we'll just take a break real quick and go back to a word from our sponsor. Wildman Robbie Page here, and I want you to be sure to check out my YouTube channel. Type in Wildman Robbie Page, check out some of the matches. Like, share, subscribe, and also check out Dragon Warrior Kung Fu YouTube page. Like, share, and subscribe. That's where you'll find our podcast until we download it on some other platform.
The Adrenaline Rush Podcast with Donald Kinney and the Wildman Robbie Page, coming to all streaming sites online and near you.
This is Wildman Robbie Page here, just to tell you about Mountaineer Brand products. I've been using this stuff for quite a while now, and I'm telling you what, the products work. It's all natural, no additives, no chemicals, no funky stuff you're putting in your body and on your body. Everything is made all natural ingredients. So do me a favor, go to their website, mountaineerbrand.com, check out all their deals. They always have something going on, and whatever deal they got going on, if you add the promo code WILDMAN15, you'll get an additional 15% off your order. So go check them out, mountaineerbrand.com.
All right, and we're back with the Adrenaline Rush. It is now time for everyone's favorite segment, the chopping block.
All right, today on the chopping block is a guy who's been in the area for about a year, maybe closer to 2 years altogether. The whole time he's been doing this, he's been hot and cold with training and doing anything, and people still book him and put him in the ring in matches. Now, he's still a trainee. He has a lot to learn. He has to learn how to work a match before you book him in a match. He's got to learn how to bump right. He's got to learn how to do holds and throw punches. And for God's sake, he's got to at least put on some size. There's no believability in 110-pound dude in a ring facing anybody that size or bigger. There's no believability in that. Yeah, you can use him as an underdog, as somebody to put somebody over, but he's still learning how to do everything. When he doesn't know how to bump and move and feed for the guy in the ring, it makes everything look like garbage. And the guy, you could have a 20-year vet, if the guy that you're wrestling, the guy I'm talking about, isn't moving around and doing things, just a dead fish, and he's smiling when he's supposed to be hurting and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Just because you're friends with him, just because he's setting up the ring and tearing down, that's all part of being a trainee. That doesn't mean you put him in a match and get him on the show. No offense, but Van Hansen, you have got to really take what you're doing serious, or I tell all you promoters, don't book this kid in a match. You want him on the show, you want him to be there to be ring crew, want to help out, want to do this, want to do that, fine. But somebody needs to seriously work with this kid. Get him in shape, ring shape, teach him how to wrestle. I tried one time with this kid. He's timid, he's afraid to take shots. If you're in the ring in the wrestling business, things are going to hurt. If you're afraid to take a chop, if you're afraid to get punched, if you're afraid to get kicked, then you really need to seriously think about not doing this. So either toughen up, get in shape, learn how to wrestle, or don't do it. That's the chopping block for today.
What did the autopsy reveal as the cause of death?
You've been chopped. This is Sifu Donald Kinney.
And this is Wildman Robbie Page.
We're here to tell you about Dragon Warrior Kung Fu.
If you've been interested or wanting to learn some martial arts, then look no further, because Dragon Warrior Kung Fu is in 2 locations.
Tuesdays and Thursdays by appointment. Mondays and Wednesdays at Extreme Family Fitness in coordination with Elite Martial Arts and MMA.
So check us out on Facebook, check us out on YouTube, and sign your kids up today.
Dragon Warrior Kung Fu, where you can choose to be a dragon.
It's me, Jimbo, and I'm here to tell you about the Mountaineer Brand product. It's that winter season again, and man, it gets cold up here in them mountains, and my old lady, Sally, she been using that Mountaineer Brand lip balm to keep her lips from getting chapped.
I've been freezing my buttocks off up here, but let me tell you, I just came from washing my beard with that there pine tar beard wash, and let me tell you, I love it. I blend right in with the Christmas tree in the living room.
That little pine tar, the water runs right there, it freezes on your beard, and it looks like a bunch of icicles hanging from your chin.
You can't tell if I'm Santa Claus or Jack Frost.
And when I get up in the morning and I'm having trouble breathing, you get that Mountaineer Brand vapor mud, and I put a little bit right underneath the nose there, and I can smell the cows from miles away.
Yeah, nothing like the clear sensation of that nostril mud.
Check out Mountaineer Brand and use that promo code from our good friend, the Wildman, and that's Wildman15. Use that promo code when you go to MountaineerBrand.com, and you will keep yourself nice and warm for the winter season.
MountaineerBrand.com, Wildman15. Promo code Wildman15. We're back with the adrenaline rush. Now, Robbie, I believe it is time to put someone on the pedestal. Now, when we say putting them on the pedestal, this is talking about someone who's a good worker, right?
Yeah, someone who definitely deserves a little credit, some notoriety, someone that's really put in the work, who's really been doing what they're supposed to be doing to progress in the wrestling business. So with the feedback, somebody saying not to be negative, so we're going to do this segment after the chopping block. The first person that I want to talk about putting on the pedestal, this guy years ago, he started down at the House of Pain briefly. He got a bad taste in his mouth, some things happened, and at that time He was probably 80 pounds heavier, was not in good shape. He wasn't taking care of himself. He was depressed, a lot of stuff going on in his personal life. And he basically said, screw it, this isn't for me. Fast forward a month or so later, on my rounds of hanging up flyers here and there, I ran into his mom. And she had asked me if I was still training people. And I said, yeah. And at this time, I only had about 5 people. I said, yeah, here's my name, my number. Tell him to call me. And I never heard anything. Well, then one day, I get a call out of the blue. And he's like, hey, is this Robbie? And I'm like, yeah. Told me who he was. And it's like, yeah, man, I've been waiting for your call. You know, I thought you weren't going to do it. And he's like, yeah, man, I really want to do it. I just, what's already happened to me, it's hard for me to kind of trust somebody or whatever to go. I was like, well, you know, I'm not charging a lot of people. I'm not charging a lot of money. I want your loyalty, your dedication, and I'll teach you. So he showed up, 5th student, Travis DeFore, Tyler Caton, Chris Gatton, TJ Sykes, and Jacob Edwin. And that's who we're talking about. When I first met him, he, like I said, he was 80 pounds heavier. I spent 4 years of my life working with a group of kids. He's definitely in that top bracket of people that I've trained. I would also say he's probably maybe in the top 5 because he's definitely more motivated than he's ever been. Once I worked with him and trained him and got him his foot in the door, and these last, I'd say, 4 years, he has took what I've taught him and just excelled from there. He's been down in Tennessee. He was a mainstay down there for Mid-South for probably about a year, and he still goes frequently. He's all over the place in West Virginia. He's wrestling in PA in several places. One of them, he was champion up there for a little while, RWA, I think. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He's got his gimmick going on right now that's getting over. He's a great heel. He's a good baby face, but he found his niche with this new, with the character, you know, and started small and he's grown from it, and he's got more ideas that he's told me about and things, and the more and more he keeps expanding on what he's doing as the professor, I think that's going to get him noticed. I mean, it's already getting him noticed, but I think the more he expands on that, and if he kind of creates a stable, which he's trying to start doing that with Coach Osborne. You know, you got the professor, you got the coach, now you need like the academics and the athletics, and you have that little stable going, and he being the ringleader of that stable, I think that will get him a lot of eyes on him, and maybe, you know, using that group if he has a stable, just himself, because with the Coach Osborne as a manager works too. He's been doing a little of everything by himself with Coach Osborne, and he's got ideas, and he's been bringing out the chalkboard, doing the lesson of the day, and all that stuff. I mean, he is getting over as a heel pretty much anywhere he goes. His talk and his character and stuff are solid too. You know, he doesn't get up there and fumble around and stuff like that. He's deliberate. You know, he's definitely with the professor character. You don't want to be like a rambling idiot like me. You definitely want to prim and proper and have your etiquette down pat, and he's got it. He was handing out pamphlets to people in the crowd with his lesson plan and stuff like that. I mean, that's great. Yeah, that's what you need. You got to commit to it if you're going to do it. That's what wrestling needs more of these days. Guys like Jacob Edwin with a character, with something that you can grow with, something that you can put pretty much you could put him in his segment leading into a match anywhere on the card. It could be the opener of the show. It could be right before intermission to keep people wanting more afterwards. You could put him right on after intermission to get him back in the groove. And if you got him against somebody, a champion or high stakes match, he can be in the main event too. I think he's got all the tools, all the fundamentals. All he needs now is the right eyes on him. So Jacob Edwin, brother, I love you like a brother. I treat you like a son. Nothing but best wishes for you in your future. Keep doing what you're doing. Get your name out there. Try to get the matches with the best people you can get to show everybody what you have to offer. Stay away from the garbage, which you have done a really good job of these last few years. Keep doing it. You want to wrestle the best so you can prove that you are one of the best out there right here, right now. You're still young enough. You still have the opportunity. You still have the chance to make it. Please do your best, brother. So today you're on the pedestal, and I hope something good happens for you.
Very good. Jacob Edwin has been placed on the pedestal. And today's Velcro song of the day is Long Way to Fall. This song is written by our good friend Bryce Henry. Long Way to Fall. If you would like to check out other Velcro music, you can find it on Facebook, on YouTube, or virtually any streaming or music downloading site online. Velcro, VELCROHM, Velcro.
All right, we're back with Adrenaline Rush, and now it's time for the martial arts lesson of the day with Donald Kinney.
All right, and I am Sifu Donald Kinney, over 20 years experience in the martial arts. Currently teaching 5 animal kung fu and working on a recertification in Pai Lum Kung Fu, which is the old white dragon Daniel K. Pai method. Now that's a guy that he was huge in like the 60s and 70s in the world of martial arts, and you never really hear about him anymore. You know, like you still hear about Ed Parker, you know, for being the Kempo founder and stuff like that, but you don't really hear about this guy who was even, I would argue, a more bodacious figure, because he set the original record for breaking the big 150-pound slabs of ice. And
well, that was before like mainstream video and
before video. Yeah, there's very little footage of him, and the majority, you know, from what I understand of the footage of him is people's private footage that they don't want to release publicly because it's like private footage of him teaching them.
And it's probably like a sacred thing.
So it's like very personal to them.
Yeah, they don't want.
Yeah.
Well, that guy's not around anymore. He's not teaching anybody.
Right, and they don't know whether it's honoring him or dishonoring him, so they're not going to do it to be safe. Plus, it probably makes them look silly. They're like experienced teachers now, and it shows back footage, you know, when they were learning from, you know what I mean? I can see that as well, you know? A couple of the famous students, Don the Dragon Wilson, Cynthia Rothrock. Cynthia Rothrock, I think her first husband also was a big student under him, which may have been how she got into it. I'm not totally sure on that. But she was one of his best students at one point, too. He was a bodyguard for Muhammad Ali and a trainer at Muhammad Ali's special training camp for a while, and he was a stand-in in the fight scenes in at least a couple of Elvis Presley's movies. I think at least 2 or 3 of his movies. He was like the stand-in, like when it would get into the fight scene, it would switch. It would be Daniel Pai in the Elvis jumpsuit with his ponytail tucked in down the back of the suit. You know, they shoot him at angles where you don't see his face. You just see his black slick back hair, you know?
And that's stuff that you go back and try to watch those movies and try to catch that stuff. Because back then they didn't have
I think Blue Hawaii, Girls, Girls, Girls. I don't know what the other one is.
Because back then they didn't have the souped up technology to make it really look like another person. Like you could really catch stuff like that in those older films. And
right, yeah. And I heard a story somebody told that Grandmaster Pai was outside of a seminar he had just done. I guess they paid him with an envelope of cash, so he stepped outside, and it was I think it was like a rough neighborhood in Chicago or something like that. He just stepped right outside, was on the street corner counting this envelope of cash, and this guy came up and pulled a knife at one of his students that was like, I think actually living with him at that time, training full time. Guy came up and pulled a knife. The student's telling the story, he didn't even see it. He just saw Grandmaster do a move in a flash, and it made like 2 popping sounds right close together. And then he said, next thing you knew, the dude was on the ground with broken arm, and the knife was on the ground couple feet away, broken in half. I don't know what kind of move that is where you break the knife in half, you know what I mean?
I definitely want to learn it, though.
That's some crazy shit.
But going into what you was talking about some of the students and how that led into different variations of...
Yeah, so a lot of his top students already were high-ranking black belts in, you know, a famous style of karate or taekwondo, or a couple of the guys are judo guys. Daniel Pai trained with Henry Takamoto, I believe is the name, in Hawaii, where he learned some judo and some karate. So, you know, he apparently was well-versed in the takedowns.
Which I've always said, before mixed martial arts was a big thing, a lot of people studied one style and mastered that style.
Right.
With mixed martial arts, not necessarily are you a master of any style, but you are like a handyman in each one. You know a little of each, which I would say that's kind of more where I didn't study just one style my whole time. This style, this style, this style, and take a little from each and try to blend it the best way I can. You wouldn't say that's mixed martial arts, but in a way that is.
But it is, yeah. It's the kind of, you know, mixed martial arts that there have always been, because there always has been, you know, guys that cross train or that train multiple, you know, things like Grandmaster Pai, you know, was always training with someone else during and around the times that he was training with his adopted grandfather. And as much as there's always been guys who are mixed martial artists, there's also always been a thing that, especially in Chinese martial arts styles, has held them back in terms of their growth is federations. They didn't even have like the first federated organization of martial arts where they could work together and stuff for a common goal until the 1920s. You know, so it was always so competitive coming from the old days when it was to defend your village and your family.
Well, that's what I was getting to, because back then dojos actually fought each other to see which dojo was the best, and then that dojo that one stuck around, the other one's kind of
well, and even in the early 1900s, they were still doing stuff where, like, they would hold a martial arts tournament, like a weekend-long tournament, like Bloodsport, where you're on the raised platform and either one person can't continue or you knock them off the platform. You know, even in the early 1900s, people were still getting killed in Kung Fu. You know, Lam Sai Wing, the guy we talked about last time, he competed in a weekend-long tournament. Lei Tai. It was a weekend-long ordeal to see who would be the next trainer of the martial arts for the military, hand-to-hand combat trainer or whatever. Something like 70 people were either killed or crippled in this tournament that he won to become the martial arts instructor for the military. That's a crazy dude. Back in the days, they'd have those situations where they had to fight like whole gangs. It got insane with how good some of the guys were. One of my teachers said, you take any historical Kung Fu master, they could probably take on 6 modern martial arts masters, because they were just that much
more serious,
more hard and serious and focused.
A lot of those guys, that was their life. Eat, breathe, sleep it.
Yep.
They didn't have no distractions. They didn't have
train in the morning and after sundown.
Nowadays, there's a lot of, you got to work a job, you got family, you got kids, you got side things. There's something always distracting you to take away from your focus.
Yeah, it's very hard to maintain a really steady routine, you know, if you're doing a crazy family life and, you know, working any kind of alternating schedule or late night schedule. All that stuff definitely adds up on you and kind of weakens you down, unfortunately.
Segueing into like other things that it branched out to, in Taekwondo being one thing, how Taekwondo is kind of affiliated with kickboxing, and then kickboxing is affiliated with
like MMA.
And I wanted you to kind of talk more about that, because if you're not a martial artist, if you're not into martial arts, and even if you are, people don't realize how things go hand in hand with it being a different style. It's hard to describe talking about it. So like if somebody that knows Kung Fu knows a little of this.
There's a lot of shared skills in martial arts that, in my opinion, are just kind of core to having an overall knowledge of martial arts anyway. You know, you should know at least the basic strikes, takedowns, locks,
blocks.
Yeah, some, you know, basic wrestling defense, which means doing some drills on that stuff. You got to have a core to build from. And to me, I started out with karate, and we did MMA off of the karate, jiu-jitsu techniques. To me, having the strong core is really what was important in my early success in Kung Fu, because my teachers looked at like, okay, he can demonstrate the applications, the self-defense applications of these moves. There was a certain amount of confidence knowing that they could trust me to teach people to defend themselves regardless of how good my Kung Fu is. Kung Fu is something where generally you've done it for over 20 or 25 years before you're really considered something in all the traditional Oriental styles.
Getting to what you're saying is like, so you know Kung Fu and karate, but during class they demonstrate a few takedowns or locks, and you do it well, and they're like, okay, well, this guy, he gets it, we're gonna show him some more of this stuff.
Right.
And then you pick up that.
There's definitely a philosophy with most Kung Fu styles, at least the ones I'm familiar with, where they look at what you're good at when they're teaching you and say, okay, well, we'll give him a certain amount of that kind of stuff, or we'll give him a certain amount of something else to balance him out, you know what I mean, to make him more well-rounded.
Well, I guess that'll be the martial arts lesson of the day, and we'll just roll into our movie reviews or our movie recommendations for this week. We'll go with 2, and we'll go with you first, Donald.
Okay, my number 1 old 80s recommendation would be Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell. I believe it's John Carpenter that directs that. I'm not 100% sure. So. I think it's John Carpenter. But
I think they're supposed to be doing a remake of it too.
For an older movie, it's very fast-paced and has a very slick sense of humor. You know?
And it has some pretty cool special effects in it too.
Yeah. It was back in that He-Man Masters of the Universe time period. Those are the best explosions.
Yeah, that movie is always one of those ones where if it came on like at Saturday morning movie block, you know, I would always watch it.
Yeah, that's a great one. They take the secret potion before they go into battle, and they're in the elevator. It's like, getting kind of warm in here, isn't it?
The part of that movie that I remember the most is where the one guy, they're like from Mortal Kombat, the one's like Kowloon, where he throws the hat. The one guy's like Raiden, and there's the other dude that's got I think it's like the knives. The one dude, he gets all big and he swells up and and then he explodes. Like that, the image is in my mind forever.
That is the craziest scene. Literally, they were just like, we want to do a special effect where we explode a doll on film. We're gonna blow that thing up till it explodes right in the camera.
It was cool, man.
That was pretty crazy.
So what would be your number 2?
And number 2 would be Barry Gordy's Last Dragon. I don't know how Barry Gordy got his name on that bad boy. I guess he funded it. I don't know. I believe it's the first all-black behind-the-scenes crew for like a Hollywood movie, but it's just a really fun film, like Big Trouble in Little China. You got Bruce Leroy watching the Bruce Lee movies and getting attacked by the Shogun of Harlem.
That's an old one. That might be one of the ones I might have to break out and watch again.
I'm pretty sure I've got that one. I'll have to loan it to you.
The last time I talked about Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. This time there's a movie. I'm trying to think of the style. It's a form of karate, but it's with the fighting sticks, and the movie's called The Perfect Weapon.
Jeff Speakman.
Yes.
He was an American Kempo guy under Ed Parker, which I just randomly mentioned earlier. That's funny.
That movie is bad ass, man. Bunch of cool parts in that movie, but it really hooks you at the beginning of the movie when it shows him taking up for his little brother on the football field, and he does that spinning roundhouse kick and knocks the face mask off that football player's helmet.
See, now you were talking about the relationship with like Taekwondo and kickboxing. There's a good example, you know, Jeff Speakman. American Kempo is a lot of quick, close-range hands type stuff, kind of almost similar to Wing Chun. And most of their kicks are going to be like low kicks, knee kicks, and below-the-belt kicks and stuff like that. You know, nasty street style stuff. So he's someone who incorporated Taekwondo. You notice that first big fight scene where he fights the Korean guys, they're basically all Taekwondo fighting in that scene.
Man, it's been so long since because I think somebody gets killed and then he goes after him, and it's like gets his revenge and stuff. And the big fight scene at the end is when he uses the fighting sticks. Now they're not tongas. They're not tongas.
I believe Arnis is the one that he does. It's a Filipino martial art.
They're like
there's a few different ones
straight
that are
sticks though. They're not the ones.
two straight sticks. Yeah,
you hold
versus
them in
the
your
tonfa
hand.
like in Okinawa.
Yes.
Yeah, or it's more like a police club or something.
Yes. Those are cool. But the way this dude uses them straight sticks, man,
it's wicked.
It is wicked.
I think it's Arnis that he does. I don't know. There's like three main. There's like Arnis, Kali, and Eskrima are like the main Filipino stick fighting styles, and they're very similar.
So that would be my number one. My number two, I would have to go with more kid friendly, a more family movie. I would say the first two would be the really good, but Three Ninjas.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's a good holiday
Rocky,
recommendation.
Cody, and Tom Tom.
Yeah. Was it the third or the fourth one where Hulk Hogan was it with Thunder Mountain or whatever?
Yeah,
the
it was
theme
like
park
the
thing?
fourth one or something like that. after the second one, it kind of
got ridiculous. Yeah,
started getting a little too much.
The first one was really cute, though.
The first one was really good. The second one was pretty good too. Growing up, still a teenager, and your little brother is at that age where he's wrestling with you and all that, and then you pretend you're the three ninjas, But those movies were always good. Incorporated the teaching from the grandfather and the discipline, and it taught a lesson about them goofing around and messing up at school. And the grandfather, his form of punishment was getting them to do chores and learning the style of martial arts that his grandfather knew. And then that helped them become better kids and kind of instilled discipline in them and stuff like that. So those type of movies are always good to watch with your kids. It shows them, hey, when I tell you to go take out the trash or clean up after yourself or take your cup back in the kitchen when you're done drinking from it. Those are things that I shouldn't have to tell you to do. You should already know. But if you don't want to do it and you want to give me back talk, then guess what? Now you're going to do something you don't really like to do.
Yeah.
So
do a horse stance. Teacups on the backs of your hands.
I think he don't mind push-ups. He don't mind sit-ups. He don't mind squats. I think his thing is the wall sits.
That's the one that really gets him.
I think that's the one that gets him.
Oh, yeah. Kids don't want to feel that leg burn. That's a little too real,
So those are our movie recommendations for this week. If you get time, you ain't watched them or you haven't watched them for a good while, look them up, check them out. We'll take a break from talking here and hear from our sponsors.
Come on down to Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. Mondays and Wednesdays from 5 to 6 at Extreme Family Fitness in the Elite Martial Arts and MMA classroom. Tuesdays and Thursdays by appointment only. Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. 304-350-0646. Choose to be a dragon. All right, we're back with story time with the Wild Man.
I'm going to take you back, I don't know, about 5-6 years ago, on the tail end of running my own league and training a group of wrestlers, and I get a phone call out of the blue. Someone I've never gotten a call from, someone that you answer the phone if they call, and it was Dick Kerkhoff, which everybody knows him as being the godfather of independent wrestling in this area. So when he messages or calls you message or calling back. He proceeds to ask me, he's like, I know you're from the local area and all that stuff, but there's a guy coming from Virginia that wants to start running shows in Inwood. He's basically using Dick's promoter's license to run, and so that's how Dick is involved in this. Dick doesn't want to do anything else. He wants the money,
the licensing.
He wants the money for the license and to be able to show up to the show.
Yeah.
So he gives me this.
Well, he's getting pretty up there in years. I think he's been promoting shows for this area forever, from what I understand. Yeah,
he's basically out. Like I was saying, this was 5-6 years ago when this was going on. So he's definitely kind of stepped away from the business as of now. His health has been up and down, and you still see him here and there at a show and stuff like that. It's good to see him. And getting back to the story was, he's told me about the guy and gave me his number and contact. Apparently this guy's already ran at least 1 or 2 shows at the rec center in Martinsburg at this time, and he wasn't drawing but 30, 40 people. So I make contact with the guy and we talk, and I tell him, I'm going to come to your next show and I'm going to evaluate things and go from there. I show up and I see how it's ran. I see what he's got booked, and it's just, what in the world is going on? This guy has no clue. He's what we like to call in the business a money mark. Somebody that's got money to blow and wants to be involved in pro wrestling,
but doesn't really
has no sense of anything about it. How to carry yourself, how to go about it, how to run a show, how to make storylines, how to go about booking people. He has no idea. He's putting belts on people that, let alone have a belt, they shouldn't even be in the freaking wrestling ring, and he's got them on their show. because he's the type of guy that he don't know nothing about the wrestler. He doesn't look him up. He doesn't check out anything about him. You just message the dude and say you want to be on a show, he's going to put you on the show. And it's just like, what? We came to an agreement of, hey, what I was going to do. I was basically going to take over the booking the wrestlers and running the show, because this guy lived like 2 hours away. I'm taking over his promotion for him, because I'm going to be doing all the legwork. I'm going to be doing everything. My whole team page was my ring crew, guys on the show. I took all the people he was using and just kind of got rid of most of them and kept a couple and filtered in with guys I knew that could wrestle or that wanted to get better, and so on and so forth. Within the time I took the book from this guy, within 6 months I turned his fan base from 30 to 40 people to about 100. I had storylines going, things were going smooth. Bring in a name, it was still kind of up and down, up and down. Did a show that drew about 150 in June, and within another year, we had drawn over at least 200 people, 3 or 4 shows, and we were averaging about 150 people. About a year and a half after me taking over the book.
That's good for this local area.
Yeah, and it was, because it's in my hometown of Inwood. People were invested in some of the storylines and things were going good. There's ups and downs through this whole period of time. A period of time where I had to smarten up this guy, because he's a manager for a stable of guys. When you're a manager for a stable of guys, you come out with those guys that you're that stable with, regardless if you're the promoter of the show, whatever. If you're on the show, you're involved, and that's your role. That's your role. If you're not out with one of your stable guys, you should either be at your gimmick table or in the locker room. No, not this guy. He's walking around the crowd in the ring with a title belt that he doesn't even have, taking away from what's going on in the ring. So I had to get on him about it. And after a couple shows, he finally soaked it in, got in his head, and understood what I was trying to say. It shouldn't take several shows. It should take the one time. That's it. You know, I'm doing all the work for him and selling tickets and writing the show and making sure he's got a ring crew and this and that. And then at the end of the night, instead of paying the boys after their match or at the end of the night, he's making guys wait around while the ring's getting tore down, and making guys kind of like hunt him down for their payday, because he's trying to avoid them because he doesn't want to pay people. And then on top of that, his word to several guys is, I might not be able to pay you this, but I'm going to pay you at least this. And at the end of the night, he's not paying guys, and then those guys are coming to me, and they're mad at me because they're not getting paid. And I'm like, that's not me. That's Stevie B. That's who I'm talking about. You got to go to him. We had this awesome thing going with Mike Skills, God rest his soul, because he's not with us anymore. But he was like the modern day Captain Lou Albano, man. He knew how to get freaking heat, and he had so much heat for LTW at this time.
You talking about Mike Skills?
Mike Skills.
Oh yeah,
right.
He had Magic Mike gimmick that he was doing
with Chris was awesome.
Oh my god, he's hysterical. Yeah,
but he had so much heat that the crowd, I mean, it was like infectious. Like they all wanted to see him get his ass kicked, right? And Stevie B didn't pay him that night, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's got the most heat of anybody here.
Yeah, so it's,
pay the man. Got Mike to come back for the next show to where if his team lost, he had to be in the ring with the other guys for 5 minutes. We got that, and the crowd it fucking went over. And Stevie B didn't pay him again. So shit. Mike lost his shit on Stevie B, which I don't blame him. And Mike never came back. And from then, it was just we had things going, and I'm running things, and things are looking good, and Stevie B's making a little extra money and whatever. Now Stevie B wants to change things. I don't want to use this guy. I don't want to use this guy. I don't blah blah blah. Because don't ask me why. You got the tag champs that got heat, and you're gonna just not use them next show. So what happens to the belts? You know, why? If you don't want to use them anymore, then who you want to bring in that's going to take their spot, that we're going to have them put this other? He don't even know. And I'm like, you can't do that. You got people buying tickets to see these guys get their asses kicked, and they're not even going to be on the next show. I mean, what sense does that make, dude? Why are you screwing with this? I'm trying to do things good for you. But he's the promoter. He's the money guy. He's the one who, you know, if he wants to change things, he's going to change things. I can't do nothing about it except bitch, you know. We go a couple shows and we lose. We go from like 150 down to about 120, 100. And he's got this bright idea where I'm going to bring in Buff Bagwell. That's a name. We can build off of that. We can try to get a few extra people. And we actually do. We bring Buff in. I have a whole game plan strategy of how we're going to do it. We were going to have him versus Brandon Scott because Brandon was holding the whatever championship, the mid-card title.
Right.
And he wasn't there, so it was like we had to vacate the title because the champ doesn't show up or can't make it or whatever. You want Buff to be the good guy. You don't want Buff to be the bad guy. Who, besides Brandon Scott, do the people get on the most? Well, of course, Chris Klein, right? So we have Buff versus Klein, which is two character clashes. You know what I mean? They're characters, their mannerisms, they clash, and it could be a really good match.
Yeah.
I'm like, we got to have Klein go over somehow dirty. Stevie B saying he didn't want to spend the money to bring Buff back. I'm like, I understand that, so this is how we got to do that. We got to still make Buff look strong, so we got to have Klein win.
Be the hero, but have your dirty champ keep the belt.
Yeah, so we have something to where maybe Stevie holds Buff's foot while Klein's getting the pin or something like that, and then Klein gets the belt because they did something dirty, but then before they leave the ringside, Buff gets his hands on Stevie B. So now he gets that extra pop going into intermission, helps him sell more gimmicks, and Stevie B gets that heat, and now he's getting his receipt from that, and the crowd will pop for that. In the midst of having the conversation with Klein, Buff, me, and Stevie, behind my back or whatever, Buff...
Now, to what degree are you putting this together? Because you're doing the booking and basically running the show, right?
Yeah, I'm running the show, the locker room, telling everybody the finishes of their matches, how long they need to go, who's going over.
Are you putting in like certain spots as well, or is the match itself more up to the individual?
The match is more up to themselves, except for the how the finish is supposed to go.
Right.
Rest of it is on them.
Because that's what's key to the storyline of the championships changing hand and
you keep it within this format,
which should be the focus of the company.
I'm sitting, we're sitting in a little circle, and I go over all that, and everybody's good with it. And boom, boom, boom. Well, 10 minutes later, Stevie B's coming to me saying, "Oh man, we're gonna change it up. We're gonna have Buff go over strong because I'm bringing him back next show." I'm like, I thought you just said not even a half an hour ago that you can't afford to bring him back next show because the last couple shows we've lost the crowd and you've lost some money. Now you're telling me you're going to bring him back. Okay, whatever. So Buff goes over clean, whatever. So, long story short, we come back next show, bring Buff. I'm going to have him on after intermission. Reason being is because he's the draw. If you have him on before intermission, the people that come just to see him are going to leave after intermission. And it's exactly what happened after Stevie B changed up my lineup and put Buff
in the first half
before intermission. So before intermission, we got damn near 200 people in the crowd. Buff's on right before intermission rolls, come out of intermission, half the fucking crowd's gone. So now for your second half of the show and then your title match, the main event, it looks empty because everybody's scattered out now and 60 plus people is already gone because they come to see Buff and get an autograph and picture and they're not worried about the rest of the show. They're gone. That leads to me being, telling him again, why do you keep changing things that I have set? I know what I'm doing. Obviously, look at the crowd. I'm putting people in the seats, not only from selling tickets myself, but because I have storylines and people are coming back to see what happens next. And then you are changing things up, and that's what keeps screwing things up. So next show, this is kind of, I'm almost at the end of my rope. You know what I mean? Like, I've already been telling this guy over and over again, you can't do this, you got to do this. This is, and it's just driving me insane because he doesn't want to listen. He brings in this so-called guy from TNA, which I looked him up when he told me that he was paying him this amount of money to bring this guy in, and I've never heard of him, and I could only find 2 matches of him online. So I'm like, who is this guy? Have the whole match set up. He's supposed to come in. He's supposed to be the heel, put over the champion at the time, which was Ja Cole. The guy shows up way late. I mean, super late. The show's already started, and this guy still hasn't showed up. So I run over matches with everybody else, and I give the finish to Ja Cole and everything. The guy finally shows up. And man, he walks in the locker room like he's fucking stone cold or something. Like his shit don't stink. And he didn't, from what I understand, he didn't say much to nobody. Didn't shake anybody's hand. And then I kind of introduced myself and, hey, you're wrestling him. This is the finish. You guys got 10 minutes. Blah, blah, blah. This is what I want. Well, the show's running late. And we got to be out of the building by 11. The show's supposed to be over at 10. Right? We're already running about the 9:30 mark right now. Alright? Main event's getting ready to start. They're supposed to cut a promo before the main event match. I told them to keep it short and sweet, to utilize the 10 minutes in the match. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, it's 9:30. 10 o'clock, we need the show to be over so we can clean up and tear down and be out of there by 11. The guy that comes, the challenger, the guy that he paid money to come out, the crowd's kind of dead already, right? Because half of them's already left because of...
Yeah, half of them have already split it. Yeah, intermission.
Because of Buff, right? This guy, main event, crowd's already dead. People are ready to go home. And he comes out and I guess his gimmick was something biblical or something, because he come out and for 5 minutes he read scriptures of the Bible. So people are already falling asleep. Now they are asleep. It's 9:40. Champ comes out. Match starts. They lock up. And I guess they didn't talk over much at all. As soon as they lock up, the first thing that they go to do, they mess up. They try to recover. They mess up again. Then I guess they realize, shit's going downhill. Let's take it home.
Oh, man.
And they take it home. So
you have a 2-minute match?
A 2-minute match and a fucking almost 10-minute promo. I was so mad, so pissed off, and I told Stevie B, you paid money for that, to bring that guy in to do that, when we could have paid everybody here today, instead of telling them, oh, you could catch them the next time. You could have paid everybody. We could have got out of here on time. We wouldn't have lost people if you wouldn't have switched the Buff match. I said, but you don't want to listen to me. So needless to say, I got hurt, couldn't wrestle. He wasn't going to step up and come into town and hang up flyers and do anything. He was relying on me to do everything. I said, so if that's the case and I can't wrestle, then I want a bump in my pay for everything that I'm doing for you, or I'm done and you can do it yourself. And it wasn't like I was asking for hundreds of dollars. I was asking for maybe half of what I was already making increase. What I make off tickets and some other things. And if you can't do that, then the same thing's going to happen. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not doing this shit anymore. If the people that I'm doing it for aren't going to be as motivated as me and aren't willing to pay me for what I bring to the table. And this is what happened. As soon as I told him that I wasn't doing anything for him anymore, he tried to run one show on his own, and he drew about 40 people. And he hasn't ran a show in this area since. He's tried to contact me and say, hey, I'm thinking about coming back in Inwood and run a show. Will you help me out? And both times he's contacted me, I said, unless you're going to pay me this, and I can do this and this, you're on your own. And he won't budge because he doesn't want to pay me to do more work for him. Yeah. I'm not. This is, people tell me over and over again, it's a hobby or a business. To me, I treat it like a business because I've been in it so long that I'm not sacrificing my time and my body for nothing anymore. So if you promoters and people don't want to do things to help your own promotion, don't expect me to do it for you anymore. Every time I put my time, money, blood, sweat, and loyalty into somebody else's league, all I gotta do is ask for more money. Is like I never did it because they pushed me out the door, or they don't want to use my ideas, or they don't want to do this or whatever. But I'm the one who's put the asses in the seats and created what you have right now that you're building on. And it's not just Stevie B that's done it to me. It's several other leagues. And I'm just tired of that same situation. If you get an inbox message from Stevie B, any of you wrestlers out there, really question him about his motives, priorities, and if he's going to pay you. Because he likes to make up flyers and say he's going to come to town and tell you he's going to pay this and pay that to get you to agree to be on a show. And then you show up to his show, there's nobody in the crowd, and then he tells you he can't pay you. That's the kind of promoter he is. Whether he's a nice guy or not, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how he carries himself as a promoter. He shouldn't be promoting shows. If he wants to invest money into somebody that knows how to run a show and he has no say in it, that's the best thing for him to do. So that's story time for me today, talking about LTW, local town wrestling, which is only in the town that somebody else will run for the promoter.
And that's story time today with the Wild Man. Sound business advice. That's going to conclude the adrenaline rush for today. Thank you for joining us. As always, Mr. Wildman, Robbie Page, and I am Donald Kinney, and we will see you next time.
That's right. Follow us on YouTube. Like Dragon Warrior Kung Fu. Subscribe, and you will get this podcast. We thank and appreciate everybody who's listened and who gives us feedback, and we appreciate the feedback. You can definitely email me at wildmanpage160@AOL.com.
And as a final note, we should be available on at least Spotify, possibly other streaming online services the week after this podcast airs. And that's the show for today. Thank you for joining us on the Adrenaline Rush. I'm Donald Kinney. You can catch me on YouTube, Dragon Warrior Kung Fu, or on Facebook, Dragon Warrior Kung Fu.
And I'm Wildman Robbie Page. Check me out on Instagram at Wildman Robbie Page. You go to Facebook and type in Robert Page, and you can go to YouTube and type in Wildman Robbie Page. A bunch of matches, highlights, videos will come up. Do me a favor and go to MountaineerBrand.com. Check out all their products and use the promo code Wildman15. Save you some money on your order.